Hey everyone, this is Daniel,
And I'm June,
and we are
Korean.
American.
I've edited so many videos at this point
Yeah.
that I think I can hear the intro music in my head.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I mean, it might sound weird for the audience, but it's also obvious that we don't hear the intro music when we're actually recording.
Yeah.
But do you hear it too in your
Yeah.
head?
June, have you heard of it's called a silent disco or whatever?
Really?
It's like everyone brings their headphones
Mhm.
and then there's no music playing,
Oh,
but it's only to the headphones. And so
yeah,
everyone's
yeah.
like dancing to the.
Wasn't that like a COVID thing?
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty rad.
That's what I imagine every time
But it'd
during
be
the
so
intro.
weird watching it without having your headphones on.
Yeah. Exactly. I think that's part of the fun of it.
Yeah. Anyways, have you seen our recent Reels activity?
June, you're on fire.
We are on fire.
Well, you're
Yeah.
our social media marketing manager.
Yeah. I think our short form videos are doing pretty well these days.
Yes, thank
Yeah.
you for everyone who listens, watches, and
Thank you.
follows on Instagram, especially.
Yeah. You know, one thing that's kind of weird, there's a weird moment when I make the Reels.
Hmm.
And so I put Korean subtitles, right?
Yeah.
So the way I do it is I first auto generate the English subtitles,
Yeah.
and then I manually put the Korean subtitles, right?
Hmm.
Because I want the Korean to be,
Perfect.
yeah, pretty on point.
How come you don't care about the English as much, June?
Because English is just transcribed.
I see.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
fair. Yeah.
Anyways, so there's always this awkward moment when I try to put subtitles for a moment where I refer to you.
Uh-huh.
And I realized there's a very big difference in language
Mm.
where I have to have a word to refer to you.
Yeah.
And so I think there was once or twice that I put hyung when I refer to you.
Nice.
Yeah, but that's so awkward because that's not the way that I think of you.
Yeah.
But in Korean, I also felt awkward to call you just like no,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So there's like this very interesting like title system and hierarchy that follows it
Yeah.
in Korean language or in Korean society in general.
June,
Yeah.
call me Hyungnim just one time.
Do you know there's a difference between calling you hyung and then hyungnim?
Okay. Let me try to guess what the difference is.
Yeah.
I mean, I was gonna say Hyungnim is more formal,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it also. Oh, I was gonna say it breeds more familiarity because it used to be maybe the flipped, but I feel like Hyung's become the standard.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say Hyungnim now,
Mm-hmm.
it's like really, I don't know. You're trying to it carries a lot of gravitas now.
Oh yeah, you
Right.
know exactly.
Is that right?
It's
Okay.
more I think it's more hierarchical and more like I'm the subordinate.
Yeah.
So hyungnim also it's specifically where like the gangs call each other like hyungnim. Like hyungnim.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I want to call you hyungnim.
Okay.
But I can call you hyung. I don't know. If I think about our relationship,
Yeah.
I think you're somewhere in the middle between hyung and a 친구.
Ah.
hyung and a 너. Right? But I do feel awkward
Yeah.
to even think about calling you like no.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's also kind of awkward because you used to be my manager
Yeah.
and you are a hyung.
Yeah.
So it's like somewhere between a 친구 and a 야 and a hyung.
형구?
형구.
형구.
Wow.
줄임말.
I know a friend whose name's 형구.
Wait, June, getting back to the subtitles.
Hmm.
Again, the obvious thing for an American would be to say, just write out like Daniel, right?
Daniel or
But-
or you.
Yeah. Yeah. Does that just feel weird when you're writing it out in Korean? Just like why don't you just put Daniel?
Oh, I think it's grammatically awkward
Oh,
to
okay.
put your name there.
Yeah.
Or like kind of cringe. There's like yeah.
It
So
just sounds awkward?
It
or
sounds
is it-
awkward, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's also cringe. Like it sounds in bad taste too, a bit.
But even in English, right, you can't just replace all the U's with Daniels, right?
That's fair. Yeah. This episode, I don't think is going to be about language,
Mhm.
but I think I learned, because again, I have a lot of Korean language podcasts and
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The subject is often implied in Korean. So you actually
Mm-hmm.
don't have to put it all the time.
Yeah.
And it's just implied based on, I guess, who you're speaking towards.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And in English, I think you always, it's
Oh,
much
that's
rarer.
true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's
So you
true.
like put the you in much more frequently.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in Korean, you can just drop it.
Oh yeah. For instance, I always have to say, "Do you like coffee?"
Exactly.
I can't say,
Like
but like,
coffee?
have you seen like these Instagram reels or YouTube shorts where I think it's kind of trending where they totally speak in English but in Korean
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
grammar?
If English had Korean grammar,
Yeah, it's
right?
like,
Yeah.
I should say like coffee like.
Yeah. Yeah, those are good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, oh, I never realized
Mhm.
that,
Yeah, yeah.
but that is true.
So yeah, let's do it. I think this will be a good episode for me, educational at least,
Mm-hmm.
because I think the whole concept of titles is called hoching, right?
호칭, yes.
Yeah, I remember from when I first moved here, I was getting, like this language lessons,
Mm-hmm.
and hoching was one of the first things that we kind of talked about.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I even remember what that word means,
Mm-hmm. I
and
think it means like calling name.
literally.
Yeah.
But like, at the workplace,
Mhm.
how am I supposed to be
Mhm.
referred to and how do I
Mhm.
refer to others?
Mhm, mhm.
Right. And, I guess even in the family situations, things like that, I slowly pick these up, right?
Mhm.
Like, I think your in-laws, you're supposed to refer to them as like 장인, 장모님 or something like that.
Mm.
And so, yeah, I mean, these are things I didn't know about before, but I'm
Mhm.
slowly picking up.
Mm.
And also I had like a mind blown moment, June,
Mhm.
when I learned samchun
Mm.
and sachun
Mm.
for like, uncle versus cousin.
Yeah.
It refers to the sam is like 3.
3 degrees away.
Exactly. And the sa and sachun is 4.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, this is crazy. And then I
Yeah.
was like, haha, is there an ochun? And
There
then
is a
I think you were
ochun.
like, of course there's an ochun.
Yeah, there's a 6촌, there's a 7촌, there's a 8촌.
Yeah, my mind was blown, June. I mean,
Mm-mm.
this was a revelation for me.
Mm-mm-mm.
It's like, oh, there's like some system to this.
Yeah.
And so anyway,
So if you think about a family tree,
Mhm.
there's a vertical relationship and there's a horizontal relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your siblings are your horizontal relationship,
yeah.
and your like generational gap is a vertical relationship.
Mhm.
Every time you go a vertical step, it adds like it's a 1촌,
Mhm.
1 degree away, and then your horizontal relationships are 2 degrees away.
Mm.
So technically, I think I'm right. Technically, you and your brother should be like a 2촌 relationship, but you don't
Oh,
say that.
okay.
You call it 형제,
Yeah.
right? So there's a specific word for that. And you and your father is a 1촌, like 1 degree
Mm-hmm.
relationship. So you just count it that way. So that's how you end up calling your uncle a 삼촌, because you're 1 degree away because there's a generational gap.
Yeah.
And then it's your father's sibling, so 2 degrees, so 1 plus 2 is 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And you call your cousin 사촌
Yeah.
because it's like 1 degree, it's like your 삼촌's offsprings.
Yeah.
So it's you count another vertical,
Yeah.
so it's 1
Down
plus
1.
2 plus 1, so it's 사촌.
Wouldn't my nephews and nieces then be samchun also?
Your nephews and
Yeah, because
nieces.
my sibling is 2, and then their next generation.
Yeah,
is
that's
1.
why they call you 삼촌.
Oh, they call me samchun.
Yeah.
But okay, is it only? But why wouldn't I refer to them? I don't even know. Is it?
You guys are, I think, mutually
삼촌,
삼촌
yeah.
relationship, but there's a specific word that you call them, which is 조카.
조카. Okay, for nephews and nieces.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Mhm.
All right, yeah. So let's first tackle, I guess, this title relationship
Mhm.
in the family context.
Family context, yes.
So specifically, this is going to combine two things,
Mm-hmm.
but I've noticed that when you refer to maybe your kid's friend's parent, you don't ever call them by their name.
Your kids' friends' parents.
Yeah,
but
you call them by like.
But this isn't a family relationship.
Oh,
Is
it is. I
oh,
think.
not within family. It's like family in
Yeah,
general.
because I would
yeah.
call them, let's say,
Mm-mm.
like, I don't know, Hajuni Appa, right?
Mm-mm.
Something like that,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
I would refer to them by their kid's name
Mhm.
and then the relationship, their dad or mom, right?
Yes.
And I mean, this is hilarious to me because I've known some other parents
Mhm.
for 2 years now,
Mhm.
still don't know their names. I have no idea what their Korean names are.
That's very normal.
Yeah.
In Korean context.
Ah.
Mm-mm. I think I didn't know that I was gonna talk about this early on in the episode.
Oh, okay.
But I think there's so the overarching theme, I think, in this like 호칭 thing is that it's too casual feeling to call someone a name in Korea.
It's casual.
It's too casual to the extent of back in the days, let's say 100 years ago, you used to have your name, and then when you grow up, you're given another like title name, if you will. It's called the ho.
Oh, and that's where ho for 호칭, right?
I don't know exactly what that
okay.
ho is for.
It must be.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like for Korean was kings too. You never they have their names, but you never call them by their names.
Yeah.
And they haven't like Sejong Daewang, right?
Yeah, Daewang.
Sejong is not his name.
Oh.
It's like his whatever, like some other name that you don't, that is like masked that you don't, so that you don't call his actual name.
Yeah.
I think his actual name is Ido or something.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even normal people, they have like their names.
Yeah.
But then they have like their title names that they use as an adult.
Yeah.
Adult.
I see.
Because it's too casual for you to call each other by their names.
And when you say casual, is it because you have to be very close to use the names, or is it seen as disrespectful? Like, I'm not sure what you mean when
I
you
think
say
a little
casual.
bit of both.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay,
Like, because being too casual,
Yeah.
it can be kind of disrespectful
Yeah.
in some aspects.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's true, right? The classic meme joke is, let's say Caucasian families or American families.
Yeah.
Kids will refer to their parents by their parents' first name,
Yeah.
which, in Korean society, like, what? Like, you
Yeah.
have to call them 엄마, 아빠, right? Or when you get older, 어머님, 아버님, right? So,
And so the interesting thing about this is that we're naturally going into workplace titles.
yeah.
But there are a lot of like recent Korean company culture is to call you by the name, and then and because just calling you by the name is too casual, you
Yeah.
add it by having nim
Yeah.
in the end.
Yeah.
So you would be like Sungwon-nim,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But so what's really interesting about this is that they specifically do this to, I guess, loosen up the hierarchy system.
Yeah.
But they still feel that it's too awkward and too casual to call the top leadership. So there's always, you never call them by the name.
Yeah.
I don't want to say never, but in a lot of use cases, even where everyone else is calling them by the names,
Yeah.
the top leadership is always called by something else.
It's still too casual to
It's too
refer to them,
casual,
even
yeah.
if that's the culture the company's
Yeah,
trying to
yeah.
implement.
But it implies a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
That there's this like pressure
Yeah.
for calling names, that it's too casual sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes, disrespectful.
Wait, I wanted to, before we moved on fully into workplace, I had a couple of thoughts on family still.
Yeah.
So, for example, it's even to the point where when I'm talking to, let's say, other parents about my kids, even if they know my kids' names, I don't use their names. I refer to them as, 첫째, 둘째, 셋째, 막내, right? I refer to them by birth order.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I don't know why.
I don't know parent-kids culture.
Oh, okay.
Is that it?
Okay.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think, at least for me, that's what I've started doing. I don't know where I picked it up.
Uh-huh.
To be honest, it's convenient.
I don't know. Maybe it's because you have too many. And they might not know which is which.
Who, yeah. Maybe that's it too. It's like the relevant information for them
So
is that.
yeah, so I'm not a parent myself, but if I imagine it, if I only have one or two kids, I would never like. Okay, one is weird, but if I had two kids, I don't think I would say like 첫째, 둘째 when in that context.
But I feel like the youngest is always referred to as 막내.
막내 maybe.
Right?
Yeah.
So first of all, I wanted to ask you too, what does 막내 mean, like literally, if it has a meaning?
I think it's like end person.
Like 마지막 막내?
Yeah.
Like that same 막내?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But I don't want to get into birth order in this episode, but 막내 itself, that's like a title almost.
Yeah.
Right? It's like the forever baby of the family.
Yeah. Do you know it's interesting because a lot of foreigners also know the term 막내 these days?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Do you know in which context?
No.
Because like these K-pop boy
Oh,
bands, there's always like a maknae,
baby.
yeah, as
Yeah.
if like they're like a
A
sibling,
family,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I see. So maknae just means like the youngest.
the youngest.
Um,
But I think like in the word maknae, uh, it's sort of infused with like this endearing, like loving
mhm.
kind of character.
Yeah.
So that's why I think they call like your maknae a maknae.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Uh,
like our loving little baby
yeah.
maknae. I'm a maknae.
Yeah. But I guess the first, is there a specific title for the firstborn?
Yeah,
What is it?
there are a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can call them maji,
Okay.
or more gender specifically, 장남 for the first boy
Uh-huh.
and 장녀 for the first girl.
But interestingly enough, June, I've never heard of any of those terms. Maybe they've been said, I didn't pick it up, but I've never used them.
But 마지 and 장남 장녀 are a little bit different
Mm.
because 장남 literally means your first boy.
Yeah.
So even if it's your second, and if it's your first boy, you would call him 장남.
I see.
Yeah.
Why do you think maknae is such a common term, whereas firstborns are not used as much? Or are they, and I just maybe am not hearing them when they're said?
I think it's societal importance.
Mm.
I think it was much more common and commonly used like when I was growing up
I
even
see. Mhm.
because like the firstborn is so important.
Yeah,
Now I think it's not anymore
I see.
and it's more about the maknae
Yeah.
because maknae and the reason why maknaes are more important, I don't want to say more important, but more commonly used is because I think 장남 장녀 had a more like social stigma attached to that,
Hmm.
like your responsibilities
Yeah.
and like you like you're the succeeder of the family and all that.
Yeah.
Now all that is like I don't want to say gone,
Uh-huh.
but loosened up a lot.
Yeah.
But maknae is just like a loving term, so they still use it.
I see.
Yeah.
So maknae is like almost safe to use because it doesn't come
exactly.
there's no connotation with it,
Exactly.
or hierarchy based connotation.
Yeah.
I see. Cool. I had a couple more here. Yeah. So okay. I guess I want to talk about. I think for maybe the people that are younger than me,
Mm-hmm.
I think there was always this question of how they should call me.
Mm.
And if I recall, this changed once I got married.
Mm.
I think maybe I went from, I don't know if it's like Samchun to Jakanappa or something like that, or
Yes.
Hyungsu or something like Imobu. I don't know.
Mm.
But basically, my title changed when I got married.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that kind of similar in spirit to what you were saying? Like at some point, you get a new name, like you leveled up, or
Kind of.
you reach some certain status, and
Yeah.
now you have a different name that
Yeah.
people call you by.
I think in traditional Korean standard, the moment or like the point in which you become an adult is when you get married.
I see.
So you call them differently. You you're treated more as an adult.
Yeah.
Mm.
I see.
Yeah.
I remember this really like cute interaction where one of my wife's baby cousins, he was 9 years old at the time, and we had visited with our newborn, like our maybe our son was like 3 or something at
Wait,
that
you
time.
have a cousin that's 9-year-old?
My wife has a cousin that's very young. Yeah, because my wife's the oldest of all her cousins. But I just remember like when we visited, his parents were like telling him, "Oh, you're now," I forgot the exact title. What would my kid call? Anyway, but he was like, "You're something like a samchun, like that, let's say." And I could just see this 9-year-old's whole demeanor and eyes change, just like lit up. He's like, "Oh wow, I'm the samchun here." Right? Like, "Oh, I have to be responsible, take care of this kid."
Yeah.
And it was so cute. He was like running, getting a pillow for our kid to lie down on, bringing him toys and drinks, just like really taking care of him. And it all switched the moment he got like that title.
That title, yeah.
And so I think it's really, anyway, it was sweet, and it's something I'll forever remember.
What's really interesting in that aspect is even in Korea, even for twins, there's like a there's a 누나, right? And
Yeah.
a 동생, or
Yeah.
like 언니 and a 동생,
Yeah.
so that they can set up the hierarchy. So someone has to do some role and
Yeah.
someone doesn't.
It's almost like the Korean system, either language or society, breaks down.
Yeah.
If there's no hierarchy between
Yeah.
siblings. Yeah.
That's why age is so important.
Yeah.
And that's why Korean people, when you meet them, you always start with like, how old are you? So
Yeah.
that you can set up the relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I like that. Set up you have to establish the relationship.
Yeah.
And the
You don't
hierarchy.
know how to act. Or more specifically, you don't know how to call them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Wait, so I want to talk about that. Like you said, it's hard in your reels. Help a, I guess, non-native speaker like me
Mm-hmm.
when I'm trying to get someone's attention,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know their name and I can't even use their name if I did, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what I just do is like I just talk at them,
Mm-hmm.
but it's so awkward. At least half the time they don't know I'm talking to them, they don't hear me.
Mm-hmm.
So I really don't know what to do. I just
Mm-hmm.
like try to get into their like line of sight
Mm-hmm.
and repeat myself.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what Koreans do too? Like
Yes, that's the awkward moment that all Koreans encounter.
Okay, but
Yeah.
this is just like a given in Korean society.
Yeah, because like you do like yogyo
Yeah.
in restaurants, but that's like too
You're not going to do
casual.
that to
Yeah,
a
you're not going to
person.
do that. Yeah. Sometimes you do if it's like complete stranger and you're like, let's say you're in line for a bus and someone didn't know that there was a line and
Yeah.
it's trying to cut you.
Yeah.
You would say 저기요 여기 줄 있어요.
That I know. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. But
But
what
if you
it's
like
not a
kind of
stranger?
if you kind of know that person, then 저기요 is too weird.
Okay.
And so the only way to talk to them is to like make eye contact.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, thank God you don't need that subject in Korean language. So you can just start talking.
All right, that makes
Maybe
you
that's
feel
the
better.
reason. Maybe that's the reason that it doesn't have doesn't need a subject.
Yeah.
So
Wait,
that,
why?
So that you can call someone in these awkward contexts.
The shoulder tap, that's a no-no in Korean
Oh,
society,
no,
right?
no.
Okay, because I do that sometimes, but I think I get a pass because I'm a foreigner.
Mm,
But shoulder tap's not done in Korea.
it might be a little bit offensive.
Offensive, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, like, don't put your hands on me.
You know, now that you mention it, something interesting about that is that I think as a Korean person, the general perception of Americans is that you have to keep like their personal space, right?
Yeah.
You never get too close to them, don't touch them and all that
In America.
in America.
Yeah.
But it's so common to like get a tap in the shoulder.
Yeah, it is.
Whereas in Korea, I think your social space is more neglected
Yeah.
than the US.
Yeah.
But then tapping on the shoulder is more offensive.
Very
What's that about?
That's interesting. You know,
Yeah.
one of the most common complaints on these foreigner forums for Koreans
Yeah.
is like, everyone's all up in my space. I'm
Yeah.
getting nudged, bumped, pushed, whatever, all over the place. It's just, you know, when it's that dense and crowded, like the subway or the escalator or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I think Koreans understand it's just a given.
Yeah.
But I think it's the intentional kind of touching. Like, I'm not, you know, I can't help myself, but
Yeah.
I'm literally touching you.
Yeah.
I don't know. In Korean society, I guess it's seen as aggressive. Whereas in America, you know, even the hugs or the handshake, Koreans don't like to touch other people if they don't have to, I think.
Yes, that is
For
interesting. Yeah.
June, I'm making a really random connection here. Before we talked about friend circles, and I guess you're just like your network in Korea. And I think what we had determined was, you know, the closest friends groups and kind of the acquaintance groups, those are pretty similar between Korea and America. But I think the biggest difference was that area in between, like you're closer than just an acquaintance, like a random coworker, but you're not so close that you're like a close friend. That's much bigger in America. That like, you know, 1.5 degree connection.
That's what I learned from you.
Yeah, which is in Korea that pretty much doesn't exist. Either you're close or you're far.
Yeah.
It's almost like similar to maybe it's related to this, you know, you can't call them like, if you're really close, you call them by their name, or maybe your, you know, family relationship or whatever. If you're really far away, you know, there's ways that you can call them and refer to them like a stranger.
Yeah. 저기요,
But in
여기요.
between, there's no way to actually
that is
refer
interesting.
to them.
Yeah. No, I think there has to be a correlation
Connection,
here, right? Yeah. Yeah, that is true.
It's like the
You're
gap.
either very close to the person
Yeah.
or you're a nobody.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wanted to go into like all the different names that you have to call in different in the family members,
Yeah.
which is it shows like how traditionally families were so important in Korea.
Yeah.
And now that it's not anymore, even Korean people, the young generation, they have a hard time learning how to call someone.
Yeah.
And you have to like search the internet.
I know, I've learned
Yeah,
that. Yeah. Okay, I mean, there's one I do have a question about.
Mhm.
I don't know if we've talked about this before, but in America, I'd refer to my dad's brothers as samchun, uncle. But, you know, I learned I'm supposed to refer to them as like 큰아빠, 작은아빠, like big dad, little dad. Or like even,
큰아버지, 작은아버지.
작은 아버지. You wouldn't say 작은 아빠.
Yeah, I know people who do that. Isn't that weird?
It is weird, right?
Yeah.
Well, but that's what I do. Oh, it's almost like saying younger father versus younger daddy.
Yes, exactly. Like at that point, why wouldn't you just call them 삼촌, right? Because you changed the name to give more respect.
Yeah.
But why would you degrade that by
아빠?
calling it 아빠,
I think it's a familiarity thing.
큰아버지?
That's its own thing, right? Like when do you switch?
I
to
might be
call,
too conservative.
When do you switch to calling your parents 아버님 versus 아빠 and 어머님?
Oh, there's always that awkward moment.
There's like a turnover, right?
Yeah,
Like
I still feel awkward to call my dad 아버지.
Oh, 아버지 versus 아버님
Yeah.
versus 아빠.
No, 아버님
Yeah.
and 아버지 is different. You only call
Other dads.
only call other dads or your father-in-laws as 아버님. You don't call your own dad 아버님.
Oh shoot. 아빠, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think the most commonly used context is when your daughter-in-law would call you
Oh, my dad. 아버님.
yeah, 아버님,
Okay.
어머님, but not your own dad.
Okay. I think I'm clear. I think I call my parents still 아빠, 엄마.
Yeah, I think I use it. I think I mix it, but I know that there was a moment. I don't know when. Maybe like in high school or in college, where my dad specifically told us, "Now you should call me."
Oh, really?
Yeah, you shouldn't call me 아빠 anymore. And it's so awkward. Right?
Yeah.
It's so awkward.
You can't do it yet.
Yeah.
I suspect maybe when you get married and if your wife calls him that, it'll sound more natural and you might start doing it. I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And on top of that, like there's like the 반말 and 존댓말.
Yeah.
And I used to talk in 반말
With your parents?
with my dad, right?
Then it converted.
And then now I use 존댓말, but there's like there was this awkward in between
Transition
phase where like I mixed it a little bit. Maybe I still do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
June, does this coincide with when you stopped getting sebeton?
Okay. The moment in which you stop getting sebeton
Yeah.
is exactly the same as when you're treated as an adult,
Yeah.
is when you get married.
Yeah.
And if you're not married for a very long time, there's also this weird awkward 설날's
Yeah.
number of 설날's where you don't know whether you receive or you have to give.
I see. It's funny. Yeah, the level up moments, I guess, are when you get married, and then I guess that's the big one, right? But I mean, your dad told you to refer to him as 아버지 in college. Is that another big level up moment in society when you go to college, or is it when you maybe leave the house, live on your own? Like,
I don't know. I think I don't think there's a rule there specifically. By the way, I think it's really there are families that specifically, even as from babies, want the kids to call you 아버지 어머니.
Yeah,
that's really cute, isn't it?
Is
Have
it
you
cute?
seen?
I was gonna say it sounds very like formal and conservative and hierarchical.
Because there's like a little bit of irony.
Oh,
it's kind of cute.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It is cute when I hear it.
Yeah.
When you think about what's happening here, it's like a kid calling his father instead of daddy or dad from a young age.
Yeah.
No, it's cute. Yeah.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about Americans' titles in that aspect.
Yeah.
And something that I think it's a very culturally nuanced thing that I don't understand. This is what I learned from like watching American like media. I feel like there's this weird awkward moment when your son starts calling you by the name and not dad.
Yeah.
Right? Like for instance, like in The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Bart calls Homer, right?
Does he?
I don't know what the social like nuance of that is.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to. I mean, I didn't grow up in a fully American household.
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine calling my dad by his name.
So is that like a white person thing?
I think so.
they actually call their dads by
that
their
I've
names?
I've seen that before.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Is there like a transition or like a moment at which you start calling your dad by the name?
It's probably varies family to family. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, if I had to put a time to it, I think it's when you become like when you feel like an adult.
Mm. Or also, is that like a man thing? Like would
No.
daughters call their parents by their
Yes,
names too?
yeah.
Oh,
That's the same.
interesting.
Yeah. As far as I know, I think that's the same. It's not gendered.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's so okay, the one thing I can say is for teachers growing up, my teachers in school, I always called them, Mr. or Mrs. whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But once I graduated school
Mm-hmm.
and I, let's say, came back to visit them, they were like, don't call me, Miss Diaz anymore. Call me by my name, right? Nanette or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Or, that for me is crazy. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, you'll forever be, my teacher. So I'll
Yeah.
call you how I referred to you when I was in
Mm-hmm.
school. But they want me to be more familiar with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's when that relationship, you become the relationship and let's say hierarchy is gone in America and it becomes more peer based, right? It's like, well, I'm no longer your student, so we're peers now. We're both adults. And I think it might be similar. So if I had to put something to it, it's when you feel like you're more of a peer to your parents now and they start treating you that way. And at least for me, I'll say there was, again, one level up moment when I left the house and went to college. It felt like, legally I'm a grown up now in America. And also just like living wise, I'm independent. And I think the other one was when I had, getting married is one, but honestly for me, it's more when I had my first kid. It's like, oh, now I understand, right? It's like, now you have your own kids and you can understand what our relationship was like. And that's another moment where I think you and your parents become more peer-like rather than like, parent-child relationship. So yeah,
Interesting.
I'd say those are the two. When you leave the house and when you have your own kid, I think that's when it might transition.
I think there's a similar moment, and it's not about the titles, but in Korea, there's a moment in which you and your parents, or specifically, I think your dad, I think it's like a more father-son thing, but anyways, have a drink together.
Yeah.
And now, like, I treat you as adult
Yeah.
kind of thing. Yeah.
I can't wait to do that.
With your son?
Drink with my son. Pour me a drink. But yeah, June,
Yes.
I want to talk about how like titles now operate in the workplace. As you know, I love K-dramas.
이생?
Visang, I love.
Yeah.
But the one I'm watching right now is Queen of Tears. I don't
Uh-huh.
know what the Korean word is.
눈물의 여왕.
Yeah, I think that's right. And then, but in every Korean drama, right, there's always like the corporate, whatever, and it's like 회장님,
Yeah.
right? Like that means like the head honcho,
The chairman.
chairman. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that's like the top person in the
Yes.
company, right?
Yeah.
Like 회장님. First of all, like I don't know what that means, but yeah. Anyway, so I know that in Korean companies too, there's obviously this heavy use of titles. You said it yourself. So I guess how do titles work in the office and workplace? And I guess, yeah, what does that say about either the cultural context of work?
Yeah. I first want to dissect the titles so that you understand it better.
Okay.
All of these traditional work titles, there are Chinese characters, right? And it actually means, it refers to their title. For instance, so the word 장 means like lead or like the leader.
Yeah.
So something 장 means leader of something.
Okay.
And 회 is, I think, more about like a group. So 회장 means leader of group.
Oh. Okay,
And then, 사장.
Oh, 회, like meeting 회. Like when you have a meeting, it's a 회.
Yeah, I think it's the same
Okay.
character. Yeah.
Sorry, but yeah.
And then 사장 is like company. As in you say 회사
Yeah.
is like 사 is the company. So when you say 사장, it means lead of company.
The company. Okay.
Yeah, and then like like 부장, 과장.
Never heard of those two.
Really?
I'm sure I have, but it's always like 부장님.
Yeah, 부장님.
Anyway, definitely 회장님 and 사장님 are the most commonly used in K-dramas.
So 부장, when you say 부장, the
Yeah.
부 means org. So you're
Organization.
leader of the org, and 과 means like the team. So 과장 means
과장님.
like team lead.
과자 means cracker to me.
과장.
아재 개그.
아재 개그. Yeah.
Okay, what about 팀장? That's just team lead, right?
Yeah, team as in like the English word team.
Team. Oh,
Yeah,
okay, that's
팀장.
taking the team. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. So Jang is leader.
But yeah, so again, while Korean companies try to mitigate the the strict hierarchy, a lot of Korean companies started getting rid of the traditional titles
Yeah.
and either calling them just by nim or just coming up with these weird English titles.
Like?
Like, I know for some Samsung company, I don't know if like the Samsung group in total,
Yeah.
but Samsung companies call them by pro.
Pro? Like pro?
Yes, yeah,
I see.
yeah. Pro, like they call him like pro님.
Yeah.
I don't know why. And then some like startups or I know like Kakao, they call them by nicknames
Oh.
or like English names,
Yeah.
which is so weird.
That is a little weird.
Yeah.
I mean, to be clear, American companies have this hierarchy as well, right? There's C-suite, like CEO, COO, etc. Then there's like VP, which I think might map to Sajang potentially.
VP,
Yeah.
임원. Like,
Oh, there's
yeah.
that term too in Korean. Oh, and then there's director, right?
Yeah.
And then within those levels, they had to stratify it more for like senior director and like senior VP or whatever. But I think again, there's a hierarchy too, of course, in American companies.
I think 회장, so the CEO would be 사장 technically.
Okay.
And 회장, I think it's a very
Korean term.
because
Because of the conglomerates.
yeah,
and
the
like
conglomerate. So there has to be a word to call the leader of
all the leaders.
Yeah, all the branches. Yeah.
I see. Yeah, that is, we won't get into that today. But I think one of the bigger differences between Korean and American like corporate structures, and like of course it impacts how they work. But anyway, we won't get into that. So another thing that's work related is I feel like in Korean society, you're often referred to by your profession, if that makes sense. So like athletes are like so and so 선수, right? Or you always refer to like a lawyer as like 변호사, right? Or writer is what? 작가?
작가. Oh, I'm surprised that you know that word.
K-drama. Yeah. But when you're interviewing someone, it's like, oh, 작가님, right? You don't refer to them by their name. Again, I think that's a very Korean thing, referring to them by their work profession identity rather than their name. So I don't know. Like, how do you think that impacts? What are your thoughts about referring to someone as their name? Sorry, as their workplace, I guess, profession, right?
I think this ties back to again the common theme that we talk about a lot, that Korea is a relationism or collectivism society, and you and the relationship of the other person is always it's associated with like what the relationship is, right? So you always have to have that title. So for instance, let's say if there was some kind of athlete and I'm talking to you in terms of me and you as an athlete, I will call you like someone 선수. But like if we're meeting at a context of like a parent group, right? I will call you something 누구 아빠, 누구 엄마. Yeah. So it's always that relationship or the context that has to be defined.
So you said like so-and-so name, 선수. Is there a difference when you just use 선수 versus like name plus title, if that makes sense?
You wouldn't call them just 선수.
Oh, you would never do that.
There's no rule to that.
Yeah.
For instance, I think it's natural to call someone 변호사님, but you wouldn't call a doctor 의사님.
You wouldn't?
No.
Really? I do.
You do that?
I don't know.
That doesn't exist.
So how should I call my doctor?
선생님.
Oh, 선생님.
Yeah.
You wouldn't call them 의사님.
No.
Oops.
I don't know why. That's so weird.
Okay.
It is weird, right? Because there's no rule to that.
Yeah,
it's just a
Sometimes
social
you
thing.
do. I see.
But there's no. I don't think there's such a thing called 의사님.
Well, that makes it. 선생님's my default filler.
It is.
If there's someone of higher hierarchy, I don't know how to call them.
Because I think they used to call doctors 의사 선생님. I don't know why.
My theory, June, is that they had to have. Koreans refer to others by their professional or I guess career title. Because there needs to be some way to refer to them, and they can't use their name, so they just like insert athlete, right?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think there's a social trend to that as well.
Yeah.
What I see recently that didn't exist before is calling actors something 배우님. It didn't exist. Like it's a relatively new thing. It's very foreign to me too.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, everyone started calling them something 배우님.
Yeah.
Yeah.
people notice the inconsistency.
I don't know why.
It's
I think it's a way of trying to respect your profession
yeah,
a little bit.
I see.
Yeah.
So not that we ever did this, but as a designer at work, does someone ever refer to you as like designer name? Would that be awkward to you?
It is awkward because it's I think if you call them by their title,
Yeah.
it means that it reflects how society views that profession. And if it is not that respected, you wouldn't call them by that. So all the titles that are referred to by their professions
Yeah.
are the professions that are more respected in society, like lawyer, doctor, teacher, or like company owner, 사장님, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But you wouldn't call them like not
By their function.
designer-님.
To
I
me,
mean, someone would,
yeah.
but I would think it's like 오빠,
Jun, I can see this becoming a trend.
designer-님,
Yeah, or like engineering, like engineer name, or like
개발자님?
research name, or like PM name.
maybe,
right? Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's more widely recognized, plus if it's more respected, then they would call it that. Yeah.
See, the respect part I didn't realize. I thought it was more okay in this context of a work meeting, right? Like different functions, right? I'm representing engineering. You're representing design. Someone's representing research. Someone's representing something else, right? Like business. I just thought it made sense, right? Let's refer to each other by the function because that's actually what matters in this context, right?
You know what's a very good example is that in showbiz, they're actors and let's say they're comedians. And comedians, I think, are in Korean society are less respected than actors and actresses in general.
Yeah.
So they would call, I mean, again, this is a relatively new thing, but they would call the actors something 배우님.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't call
They
comedians.
don't give them a title.
Yeah, they wouldn't call them a title. Isn't that interesting?
It is
I just
interesting.
realized that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, the title comes also with some sort of prestige or I guess respect.
Yes.
I see. It's not just
Once you
purely
get
functional.
called by the title, then that's when you made it as a profession.
Jun, what would, as podcasters then, what would our title be?
Podcasters? I don't know.
YouTuber name? Creator name?
Yeah, I think they started calling people creators, but they wouldn't call them creator names
Yet.
yet.
Yet. How about I always thought that was just, this is so random. Well, I thought the term announcer for like the host or broadcaster, I just found that hilarious.
Oh, is that not a term that's used in America?
It's more the fact that Americans would never feel the need to create a title for that role. I mean, they are the announcer, but you never refer to each other as like announcer or whatever. It's just name.
Oh, now that you mention it, you know why the word announcer is such a big deal in Korea?
Why?
It's not about, I don't think it's necessarily so much about the profession itself, but the image that it projects in Korea. In Korea, when you say announcer, there's a very specific image that it projects. Very like, in Korea, we call it 반듯한.
What's that mean? Yeah.
Neat.
Neat? Oh.
Very well-groomed.
I see. Put together. You exude like success and confidence?
Yeah.
I see.
Like, let's say this celebrity.
Yeah.
He or she is dating an announcer.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like, very like, you can project that image of this person is very well put together.
I mean, to me, it's funny because like, what is an announcer? It's just the host.
It is.
So, can you be a professional announcer? You're just the announcer for some event or some, I guess, show. Right? It's like a role. Right?
I see what you're getting at. There is a title. There is a specific role in Korea.
Oh,
yeah.
You can be a professional announcer.
Yeah, your title is an announcer.
What types of jobs do you get?
They usually start off their career by being a host at a news show.
Okay. Yeah.
So the announcer in broadcasting networks is that they are the face of their company, sort of. So when they recruit them, they try to project like the most like well put together, like standard, like everyone would like kind of face and image.
It's not just, sorry, what's the difference between then announcer and reporter? Those are completely different.
In my understanding, is at least in Korea, the reporter is a person who is like on the field,
Oh, and in
right?
the studio is the
And the studio
announcer?
is the
I
announcer.
see.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think that is true in America too, no?
Oh, yeah, okay. They would
Like you
call it,
wouldn't
yeah,
call
broadcaster. But they're the host, the show host.
yeah.
And the
Those are
reporters out in the
the in
field.
Korea those would be the announcers.
Announcers.
Yeah.
Ah.
Or
So,
the anchor, sometimes they call it
anchor,
anchor.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in Korea, where do you move on from? You started as an anchor.
I
How
don't
do
know
you...
the difference between an announcer and an anchor. I'm sorry.
Anyway.
Negligence.
So there are, I think, a lot of people
Mhm.
in the U.S. Once they receive their doctorate, let's
Mhm.
say, PhD or
Mm.
MD or whatever,
Yeah.
they do want to be referred to by
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
They have a lot of pride in it.
Mhm.
They spend a lot of time and
Mhm.
energy and effort in it, and not many
Mhm.
people can achieve that
Mhm.
status.
Mhm.
So I think with doctor, that's one case where I've seen it used commonly.
Mm.
Other than that, I mean, it's just like I don't. The idea of referring to someone either by strictly their profession
Mm.
or just their, yeah, it seems foreign. I guess name is just used so much,
Mhm.
and you generally maybe prefix it with like a title, right? Like Dr. Kim
Yeah.
or Mr. Kim,
Mhm.
right? So, but just calling me Mr. or Doctor, yeah, little doesn't feel as natural. Yeah.
In Korea too, you would call doctors 박사님.
Baksanim.
Mm.
Sorry, Bak as in last name Park.
No. It's just a title. Like master's is a 석사,
Oh,
and then
oh,
doctorate
doctorates.
is a 박사.
Ah,
Yeah.
I see. So anyone who gets their PhD in Korea, you could call them baksanim.
박사님.
Ah,
Yeah.
nice.
But only in that context.
Of like an academic context?
Yes.
Okay. In America, that's funny. It's a little different. So let's say I'm introducing someone to a friend.
Mhm.
I wouldn't refer to them as like baksanim X. It's only in like a academic context. Okay. In the US, I think some people, again, they have so much pride.
Mhm.
They're like, no, refer to me as doctor or something. Yeah.
I have so many things that I want to talk about.
Okay.
Titles,
Yeah.
for instance.
Right.
This is something that foreigners, when they come to Korea, would think that's very awkward
Yeah.
if they know a little bit Korean.
Mhm.
How you call like people in the restaurant as 이모님?
As auntie?
Yeah,
What do you mean? Oh, just like a random worker.
yeah.
Oh, really?
Call them 이모님.
Ah.
Some people do that. I don't.
I picked this up from you though. You call them 사장님.
I call it 사장님
Yeah,
because it's
which-
more neutral.
Oh, I feel like this is a recent trend though. It used to be like 여기요, like here, but now it's like 사장님, like it's very respectful, right?
It's respectful because you know that that person is not a 사장님, but
Yeah.
you just call them 사장님
Yeah,
to just like make them feel better.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
사장님.
see.
But there's some people who call them 이모님.
Ah,
Mm.
yeah, I haven't heard that.
But only for the females. You wouldn't call. Oh, sometimes they do
Uh-huh.
for the males,
Yeah.
like 삼촌.
Yeah.
Yeah, 이모님. And then so I wanna talk about all these filler words where you can call certain people if you don't know how to call them.
Okay, this will be good for me to know.
I think very neutral and recently accepted term is 선생님.
Yeah, I use that.
Specifically, this is like in the customer service people all of a sudden started calling you 선생님, especially in government agencies.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I see.
Like if you call them, they would call you 선생님.
Ah, like when you pick up the phone.
Yeah,
Oh.
like just refer to you.
Interesting.
Yeah, like 선생님께서 blah 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 blah.
So that's just the generic respectful filler, like sir or madam, maybe. And
So sometimes when I talk to some people
yeah,
that I don't know how to establish the relationship,
Yeah.
I would just call them 선생님.
Ah.
You would, so when you're a customer, even in the broadest terms,
yeah.
they would call you 고객님.
고객님, I've heard that. Yeah.
Like it's like a term for customer, but it's more like elevated,
Mhm.
more respectful. Sometimes, at the gym, because gym is strictly a membership thing, they would call you 회원님.
회원님.
Yeah,
What's that
like a
mean?
member 님,
Interesting.
like sir member.
Member. Yeah.
Sorry,
Sorry, why wouldn't they just call you like 선수? I think that'd be.
선수, because you're not an athlete. You're not a
Oh.
professional athlete.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not the title of athlete.
Yeah, you have to be professionally
I
an
see.
athlete.
But maybe it's like the part irony thing. Like you call a restaurant worker 사장님, I could see it becoming a thing in Korea.
Oh, something 선수?
Yeah, because
That's
like
so awkward.
it's so funny that you to me it's so natural, right? Like in America, if you're at a gym, I think the mentality is like, oh, we're all athletes. We might not be professional athletes, but we're all here working out, trying to get stronger. So mentally, like we're athletes. This is our
Maybe.
role at the gym right now, right? So
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe in the future,
Yeah.
but for now, I feel like 선수 is a very professional term.
Oh, okay. You have
Yeah.
to like that has to be your profession.
You have to be a professional athlete to be called a 선수.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
What else is there? Oh, this is something interesting. So the thing about calling you names
Yeah.
in your name, I think it's so awkward to the extent that you would be shocked by this. In school, when I was growing up, a lot of teachers wouldn't call you by the name and they would call you by your number.
Number. I thought you were gonna say 학생,
No.
but like literally like your number.
Yeah, like 13번. Like in like in prison.
I was just gonna say that's like
Yeah.
Jean Valjean and Les Mis.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Yeah, 24601.
Yeah. I think a lot of our audience who grew up in America would get shocked by
Oh,
this.
it's
But
it's like
everyone is assigned by a number in school. Either it's by your birth date, or
Yeah.
like sometimes you do it by your height.
What?
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes,
Wait. Yeah.
yeah. Sometimes I've been schools where you would number them by their height. I've been to schools where they would number you by the Korean alphabetical order of your name.
Okay, that's more diplomatic.
Yeah.
But sorry, June. Straight up, they would have everyone line up
Yeah.
in height order, and then you're assigned a number.
Yeah.
What?
Isn't that awkward?
That sounds so crazy.
So
yeah.
so you would see in like some conversations within Koreans,
Yeah.
to tell people how short you were, they will always say, I was always number one in my classroom, right?
Oh.
It means that you were always short.
Oh, not tall. See, I would assume that means the tallest in the class, but yeah.
Short to tall. Yeah.
Okay. At least, June, it's not your test scores. I could see in Korea like lining you up by like best test score and worst test score and referring you that way.
I mean, they would love to do that. I
Yeah.
think Korean people would love to do that. But the thing about that is that the test scores change all semester, but your number has to stick for at least a year.
But June, so does height.
That's true. That is true. That's a good point.
That's really.
Anyways,
this is crazy to me.
if you see like Korean movies,
Yeah.
like you could see scenes where in the classroom, the teacher would say like, "Oh, what date is it today?" And it's like it's the 13th, and then the teacher would say like number 13,
Oh.
like do something.
I see.
Yeah,
Just to be random.
yeah,
I've never picked that up. I'm sure I will notice that now
Yeah.
when I watch dramas moving forward. Man, you're given a number. Like this is its own thing, and like I don't know if we should move towards it now. But this whole title thing, right? As an American,
yeah,
it's so it's stripping away my identity as like me. Right? It's like I only have this role to play in this relationship, in this context. I'm not me,
yeah,
right? And I know it's so ingrained, and it's one of the most common themes we talk about on this podcast.
yeah,
But the whole like individualistic
Yeah.
versus relational, communal society, yeah, it's just it would honestly, it's very offensive, right?
yes, yes.
And it's like, oh, I have no identity beyond the role I play, right? So anyway.
You're only defined by the relationship and the context in Korea, and
June.
there is no you.
Depressing.
I mean, traditionally there wasn't.
Yeah.
It's more individualistic now.
I see.
There's more of you now. But
do you-
traditionally, yeah.
Do you also have the same reaction I do? Like, do you find it depressing? And are you in favor of this move towards, no, I matter independent of this relationship or, whether it's in a family and society, whatever, I'm me, right? I have a role to play.
Not me necessarily yet, but a common situation for this is for I think a lot of women feel this way when they're married, because after you're married, I've heard that you're never called by the name.
Oh, yeah.
You're always like someone's
Mother.
mother, and so you're stripped by your name. And then yeah, there's a lot of talk about that.
I see. Yeah, I don't know if we should go into this. This is a small one. I think similarly in the States, traditionally when someone gets married, right, maybe the wife will take on the husband's last name. And, that's also a big deal. Like, I think women losing their identity or their family name, right? And so there's some trend where they don't do that. But I think even bigger is the trend for the kids. How do you refer to the kid's last name? And so I think it's very common now to maybe hyphenate the two names, like the father's last name, mother's last name together. And then there's the question of which one comes first. But no, I mean, I still remember very distinctly, JA, if you're listening, like, she was the first person to say to me, no, when I get married, I'm not taking my husband's last name. And for me, it was, I was shocked because I had never even heard of this concept before. And I was like, what? That's crazy. Like, and then, stupidly, I was like, why wouldn't you? And then I was like, oh, wow, yeah, I really don't understand. But I'd say now, like, I completely understand. And I'm starting to think it's almost weird when the let's say, wife takes on the husband's last name. But the thing is, the reason I'm bringing a lot of this up is in Korean society, wives never took on their husband's last name. They just kept their own last name, right? Is that true?
It is true.
Yeah.
And some people interpret that in a way that you did. Like, maybe Korean women traditionally were more individualistic than we thought. But the way I interpret it is that you're never a part of the family. That's why.
Yeah, that's shots fired.
I think that's it,
I think
right?
that's true.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's so interesting. Anyway, okay, so June, I guess before we wrap this up, we've talked about titles in reference to family, work, and society at large, but we didn't talk too much about hierarchy. Like, I think we did a little bit, right? We started to get into it, but I want to see if there's anything else there. How does titles now intersect with, hierarchy, which I know is a huge thing in Korean society as well? One thing you already mentioned was you only get a title if it's of a certain high class or prestige, right? So even having a title is, okay, hierarchical in that sense. But I guess I know it bleeds everywhere. Like, for example, my father-in-law, he married, I guess, the oldest daughter in the family. Even though he's younger than some of his wife's sister's husbands, he has the highest hierarchy, I think, because he married the highest, I guess, the oldest daughter in that family.
Yeah.
Which, for me, I thought this is like a conflict, right? Because normally hierarchy is based on age. But he has some hierarchy over them, I can tell.
Yeah.
Like when they all go as a family drinking, let's say, they pour for him first, I think.
So again, it's all about the context. If you're in like a family context, then your hierarchy is higher than that other person, even if you are younger.
But if let's say just the husbands were to go off drinking by themselves, is it all of a sudden removed?
So how did you meet? It's within the family.
So it's still
context.
there. It's still
but
there.
Like, let's say you knew them before as like 선배 후배.
Oh, it could switch.
That would be like the weirdest relationship. Yeah.
So when you're with like your university friends, like you have the lower hierarchy, let's say. But when you're with your family friends, let's say, two people at the same college, one's older, one's younger.
Yeah.
They both married into the same family.
Yeah.
It could switch.
It doesn't even have to go to that extent. Let's say you're 선배 후배 in college.
Yeah.
And then you go to work,
Yeah.
and now your 후배 is higher than you. That's like very awkward.
It is awkward.
Yeah.
It just flips.
Yeah.
I see. But what I'm trying to get at is it completely overlapping? Like, do titles almost completely intersect with a sense of hierarchy? Or is there any time where titles are used in a certain way that's independent of this hierarchy or hierarchical like status or relationship?
I think a lot of the times they overlap, but sometimes it's sort of neutral to hierarchy. Like when I call someone 사장님 at a restaurant, it's just to give respect to them.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that I feel or that person wouldn't receive it as I think that you are higher than me. So in that sense, it's not always hierarchical.
My interpretation there, also this is a new trend, right, of calling workers 사장님. It's in response to the perceived hierarchy that existed before, which is like you're serving me.
Yeah.
So I want to like push back against that and neutralize it a bit. Right. So it's almost in response to the hierarchy that existed before. I don't know.
That is true. Maybe. It's because maybe deep down inside you already know that there's some sort of hierarchy, so
Exactly.
you want to
Both people know there is one.
you want to normalize it. uh
I mean,
that
traditionally too. Oh, sorry,
no, I just want to say that is true.
June. How about hierarchy within a family then?
Mm-hmm.
So I think we talked about birth order a bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Magna's the baby, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what comes along with, I think, birth order and expectations and hierarchy?
Mm-hmm. So there's a 첫째, 장남 or 장녀,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's like something in between,
Yeah.
and then there's a 막내, right?
Something in between.
Yeah. Usually, especially Korea right now, there's not a lot of something in between.
Yeah, that's true.
It's either so there's a stigma for 장남, 장녀,
Okay.
and there's a stigma for 막내,
Yeah.
and there's also a stigma for 외동,
What's wedong?
the only child.
Okay.
So the social, I guess, stereotypes for 장남, 장녀s
Yeah.
are they have more responsibilities
Mm-hmm.
and they feel more responsibility, and therefore you're grown up that way.
Yeah.
And you know, like those people who always like take responsibility for things
Yeah.
is the stereotype for 장남,
Mm-hmm.
장녀. I have a funny episode. When I was in college, my
Yeah.
roommate used to date a 막내.
Okay.
And so we used to live in a dorm.
Yeah.
And so every time so he went out, sometimes he goes out to a date with his girlfriend and he would come in after like having a fight with her.
Yeah.
And then there would be times when he would ask, "Can I smoke?" in the room. I would say, "Go ahead." He smokes, and
You had to release some stress.
yeah, you always say, "Never date a 막내."
June, we're both magnes.
You're not a 막내.
I'm magne.
You're a 막내?
Yeah,
I thought-
100%.
Well, I thought you had a younger sister.
No.
Oh,
It's my brother is 7 years older. My sister's 5 years older.
okay.
So I'm magne by a lot. Yeah.
So the social stereotype for 막내s is that they're more free spirited
Yeah.
and they're free of responsibility.
Yeah.
Do whatever.
100%.
Yeah.
I love being magne.
Yeah. But there are also expectations for the 장남 장녀, right?
Mhm.
They have to carry on the family tradition and all that. So you know what's really interesting? There are these things called 결정사, 결혼정보회사. I don't know if they exist in the States too.
What is that wedding?
It's like professional matchmaking companies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they score you when you first get their membership
Yeah.
based on like how wealthy you are, like what's your profession and
Your
all
specs,
that.
yeah.
Your specs, and what's included in the specs is that your birth order. And if you're a 장남 or a 장녀,
Yeah.
you get minus points.
Minus points.
Yeah, because you have
Wait,
to
why?
carry on like
Oh.
probably you have more responsibility to their families
Yeah.
and all that. So 막내 gets more points.
More
So that's a good reflection of social stigma.
I see. There's a burden associated with being the oldest as far as responsibility goes.
Yeah.
I could see it going another way too, though, which is, magnes, I would say, like, we are less responsible. So, we like might be not as successful or as driven or ambitious,
Yeah.
right? I think we just are carefree.
Yeah.
So that could be perceived negative sometimes too, I think. But
I can already feel the difference between how my brother views family and my parents versus how I do.
yeah.
I'm like, wow, like sometimes I'm very surprised. Like, oh, you thought about it in that way. I had just zero concept of whatever.
Dude, being manga is awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Also, I want to talk about the stigma for 외동, the only child.
Oh, yeah.
In Korea, there's a little bit. I mean, this might be partially true, but like selfish.
Yeah, self-centered.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't share.
싸가지 없어.
Doesn't play well with others. Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, so I think those are exactly the same in the US. Yeah. Firstborn elders are more responsible, more expectations. And then the youngest, again, are carefree. And then only children, again, very self-centered and, don't play well with others. I'm curious, though. There's a term in the US for like middle child syndrome, which is, they never get attention. And so they're often called also like the black sheep, like the wild card. Like they're just on their own. They're kind of wild, maybe rebellious, but maybe not. Like you just don't know anything. Is there a similar term in Korean?
The middle child?
Yeah, like middle, and specifically, like, what's the expectation or stereotype about middle children in Korea?
I think that might be true, but there's not a very strong stereotype in
I
Korea,
see.
as
I
far
see.
as I understand.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally a thing. And,
Oh,
June, as a parent now, I have to say, it's all true.
it is all
Yeah, I
true.
feel, in case my kids ever listen to this in the future,
Mm.
uh, my wife and I, but I'll specifically talk for myself too. Like, I feel so bad for our oldest.
Mm.
We're learning as parents with him too.
Mm.
Like, we make all our worst mistakes with
Mm.
him
Mm.
when we put so much pressure on him because we just don't know what to expect,
Mm.
right? And so we're learning as we go.
Mm.
And I feel so bad for him. Yeah, we're
Mm.
definitely the strictest with him. And it's hard for us too, like, whether I'd like to admit it or not. I think I treat sons and daughters differently.
Mm. Mm.
And so, as the oldest and as the son in our family, right,
Mm.
I feel like I'm so hard on him, so
Mm.
strict, have so much expectations,
Mm.
always, yelling at him and teaching him more. And,
Mm.
for the other kids, it's like, be whatever.
Mm. That's interesting to me because you were a maknae.
I am among them.
So you
Yeah.
are always free from that responsibility and expectation,
It
maybe.
just happens.
But it just
It
happens. Oh,
right? And
interesting.
like, growing up too as the maknae, again, I feel so fortunate. I remember so much, like, my brother and sister, my older siblings,
Mhm.
they kind of like blazed the trail for me, right?
Mm.
They, because they had these fights with my dad and mom, I didn't have to. And yeah, anyway, the other thing I would highlight is, before we had our fourth, our third was the maknae. But like seeing her grow up now and go from maknae, and like because we had a fourth, she's also like the 언니, right? The 작은 언니 in our family too. Yeah, she changed. She changes, right? And had she never had a younger sibling, she would never have even thought about, taking care of someone else, responsibility, sharing well. She would have been the one who receives everything. So yeah, I can definitely see why maybe older siblings have some sort of resentment towards the younger
Oh.
siblings. But yeah, it's just, anyway, that role in the family plays such a big part of their personality and character and values. Yeah.
I don't know if you felt that way, but growing up when I was little, I didn't know that. I think a lot of times I felt jealous towards
Yeah,
my
you
brother.
wanted to be older. Yeah, of course.
Because I didn't know all the responsibilities or pressures
Yeah.
that he's taking, and I only see like the good things
The
that
privilege.
he gets. The
Yeah,
privilege,
yeah, yeah.
right? Like the new clothes.
Yeah. Driving a car first,
Yeah.
or spending their own money. Yeah.
This is so funny. Sometimes when in 설날, when we do when you get the sebeton,
Oh no, yeah.
my uncle would always used to do this. He had I don't know the exact amount of money,
Yeah.
but he had like let's say 10,000
Yeah.
in one hand and another 10,000 on the other hand. He gives 10,000 to my brother,
Yeah.
and then he's like, "Oh wait," and he like takes out like 2,000. You're the 동생.
He gave you different amounts based on your
But
hierarchy.
he made it sure that I saw it.
So
I don't
you
know if
knew
it's a symbolic move.
Oh, for sure.
Sometimes I think maybe my memory's messed up, but sometimes he gave the money
Yeah.
and he added to my brother and he gave it to my brother and say like 밥 사줘.
I see.
Yeah.
Like, treat your younger brother well.
Yeah.
I see. Man. I mean, you can't get more, I guess, tangible than that.
Yeah. But now that I think about it, I'm more than happy to just be a maknae.
Yeah. No, I think that's true.
Yeah.
The younger kids in our family, they always are like, oh, why does, our oldest get this? Or I wish I was older. And again, I remember feeling the same as you growing up. Oh, I want to be older. Like, what's great about being the youngest,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, definitely in hindsight now, being maknae also.
Something that I also want to mention in terms of hierarchy within the siblings is this might be a very Korean thing, and I know that this is a very common thing that Korean people experience.
Okay.
Me growing up, I had an older brother, right? So I'm a lot more comfortable interacting with older male people.
Yeah.
And I'm very uncomfortable. I don't know how to act to younger people
Yeah.
in Korea.
Yeah.
Which I feel like, I mean, it must not exist in America because there's not like the age hierarchy in America.
Yeah, I would never say I feel uncomfortable interacting with people younger than me, even though I didn't have any younger siblings.
Because it's a little bit, it's a continuum from your family to your social relationship where
Interesting.
you act like you still have to act like the older brother if you're if you're interacting with people who are younger than you. But I never did that growing up, so
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how to behave. And
Ah.
there's always this awkwardness. I don't know, I don't know what could make them feel offended or not.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I know exactly how to interact with older males.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what that highlights is just the very, I guess, strict expectations
Mm-hmm.
that come from that hierarchy,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think in America, the reason I would never say that is like when I meet someone younger than me,
Mm-hmm.
age doesn't matter. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
right. That's the difference. There's no
Mm-hmm.
hierarchy at all there,
Mm-hmm.
and so I feel very comfortable. They're just another person, right? Whereas, yeah, in Korea, obviously, it comes with a lot of things. So,
Oh, I wanted to ask you this.
yeah,
I'm younger than you,
okay.
and we met in Korean context.
Well,
Do you at all feel like 동생 to me, or is it like 100% just friends?
100% friend. Yeah,
Oh,
100%.
interesting.
The difference was, as we said, as your manager at work before, I felt that responsibility. And I try to, to be clear, I think it's fun to like lean into the stereotypes a bit. I tried to be a good manager for everyone on the team
Yeah,
and
yeah.
to like take on that role. It was fun for me to play that role, to be honest. Protect the team, like everything you see in K dramas,
Yeah,
right? I
Which
want to
you
be
did.
like the good
Yeah,
manager and
you were a
saying,
good manager.
oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
But as far as like us personally outside of work, yeah, zero. Like it's funny. I often used to fantasize being called oppa or hyungnim, right?
Oh, 형님 too. Okay.
I've never been called.
I think a lot of guys fantasize being called oppa.
Oh, of course, of course. But even hyung, right?
Yeah.
And I've had over the years, right, when I meet like either a 유학생 or like a Korean in the U.S. I think before they realize how American I am, they call me hyung, right? But they quickly drop it once they realize like, oh, this is like, I would say I don't know how to treat dongsengs in Korean context because there's some expectation there.
Yeah, because you were maknae, isn't
No,
that?
but what I'm saying is in the U.S., I know how to treat American dongsengs, people younger than me, just fine because I treat them like anyone else.
Yeah.
But in Korea, like I don't know that expectation. And for you, like, you at least had your older brother's model. You can like emulate that or copy that. In our family growing up, I think even though my older brother really did take care of me, it was not in like a Korean context. It was like in more an American context. So yeah, I don't know. I never had that modeled for me, so I can't even like pretend to know how to act. Yeah. So sometimes when I see like a baby, I use 존댓말 to them.
Oh no.
My wife is like, stop, it's so cringe, it's like so awkward, you don't understand.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm just like, is it cute? Or like, to me, I don't understand, right? So I was taught respectful is always the safe way to go. It's just like use 존댓말 everywhere.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but when I talk to a baby, like
there's
saying
a
안녕하세요.
very very vague line there.
Come on. Yeah.
Because like let's say a high schooler, if I meet them in the streets, I would feel a bit 꼰대 to just start talking to them in 반말.
I see.
I think I would use 존댓말. But there's a very vague line, right?
Yeah.
If they're like clearly looking like a kid, then I would just use 반말.
Okay. That's what I mean. Yeah, when I use 존댓말 to literally like toddlers, my wife, she says, just stop. It's so weird.
Yeah.
And I'm like, for me, here's the thing. Because I don't have anyone younger than me too, I've never had a, I guess, 동생 relationship with Koreans. So I don't even know, like using 반말 to me feels very awkward in any context.
Yeah.
Anyway, I
Pay
don't
respect maybe.
using 반말 is so awkward to me. I feel like I never feel safe using it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think that's anything else. It's such a small one, like 님 versus she. Like
she?
Jun-nim versus Jun-she.
Yeah, I don't know what she it sounds so cringe to me now.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like an old way of referring to someone.
Kind of. Yeah.
See, I learned it from dramas and I use it for some people. Maybe that's why they think it's so. They always laugh when I say it.
Maybe it's just my personal experience, but I haven't been in a lot of social circles where I would be called she.
She relationships.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, maybe no, maybe not. Maybe it's because worked in too many companies where 님 is a norm.
The norm, I see.
When I go to 소개팅s, I sometimes call them by something 님.
She. Oh, 님.
Oh. And I've had my fair share of experiences where they call me something she.
She.
Oh, and I know a friend, and I know a friend
Yeah.
who would make fun of me.
Yeah.
That I call people 님.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like, why are you using that formal?
So maybe I'm in my own
small bubble.
Yeah.
I go by K-dramas, and I think it's still used.
Maybe it is. Yeah.
I use it mostly because it's fun to just like use these terms that I heard.
Yeah.
And now I'm trying to use them. So that's
I saw you calling someone she.
Yeah.
In the poker group.
Oh yeah, she.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was
appropriate use of
pretty
it.
appropriate. Yeah.
Yeah, that one because I was copying my Korean American friend, and that's how he calls him. So I just copied.
Yeah.
All right.
How should we end this?
Jun-nim.
Jun-nim, Daniel-nim.
What's listener in Korean?
I was gonna say this.
Or audience.
청취자님.
That's too hard for me.
It's like listener.
I'll end it. To our audience names.
Yeah, 청취자님.
Thank you for listening.
감사합니다.
Yeah. And okay, bye.
Bye.
Wait,
what?
June, before we end, let's shout out our new patrons since the last time we've done this.
Yeah.
So again, if you think this episode was worth 25 cents,
25 cents,
please consider supporting us on Patreon at $1 a month. So let's shout out our 3 new subscribers since last time. Tiffany, Janice, and Josh.
Wow.
Thank you.
Are these people that we totally didn't know before?
Yeah. One I think is very random. One I think is 1 degree away, or 2 degrees away. And then one is someone I know. So
okay. Thank you, Tiffany, Janice, and Josh.
Yeah. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, you can find us on Discord now. And yeah, give us your suggestions or votes for future topics that we can talk about. So again, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Jun-nim.
Daniel-nim.
Call me
Daniel
형.
And 회 is, I think, more about like a group.
Dude, I can see you doing the hanja, the Chinese character.
No, I wrote it in Korean.
You didn't have to say that.